They're having a lot of issues in the news a lot for their workers and the kinds of conditions and so forth. But Foxconn has announced that they are hoping to put in place about 1 million robots over the next 4 years, largely taking over the assembly of a lot of these devices. How about radiology? I'll be a radiologist. Well, software is reading mammograms statistically incredibly well. Maybe I'll be a lawyer. Software is beginning not just to find the cases on LexisNexis or other databases, but actually write the briefs. The Big Ten uses software to publish stories on the Big Ten sporting events within about a minute of their completion, that are colorful, accurate, and driven by sophisticated algorithms once data enter is put in fill out certain fields. So I don't want to depress you, but I want to impress upon you that you're going to need to develop some key survival skills to navigate the landscape of work when this tsunami continues to roll in. And Tony Wagner, noted Harvard professor, has come up with what he calls the 7 survival skill sets. They mirror actually a lot of the data that IBM found when they surveyed some 1,500 leading executives. And Wagner surveyed about 650 leading executives and college presidents. And there's an amazing consistency, clarity on the skill sets you're going to need for the future. The overriding one is creativity and innovation. This is unbelievably important because the 5th item, which I'm just getting to, so 4 of these things that are building that tsunami are the exponential increases. But the 5th item is that knowledge is going to become a commodity. In other words, I mean, if you don't know something, what do you do? You look it up. And that's going to be ever more so. And math is going to be critical in here because it's going to be important to know the kinds of queries to make, understand the algorithms that are producing the information you're getting, because that's going to control what comes down to you through the cloud and through your app to your hyperlocal spot with your smartphone. But knowledge is already a commodity. It's much more important what you can do with that knowledge. And so these senior executives responding to both IBM and Tony Wagner's surveys are saying the thing they're looking for now in future leaders and even low-end hires is creativity and innovation. So one of the most important 7 survival skill sets is being innovative and creative, a critical problem solver. So you know what questions to ask. Knowledge isn't as important. You have to find the right questions. Secondly, collaboration across networks, leading by influence. So whereas a lot of us, including a lot of our professors at Yale and elsewhere, kind of have deep silos where we're incredibly knowledgeable in a very narrow discipline. Well, the T, think of the T as going to be much more important in the future. That's you have deep knowledge in one or possibly 2 areas, but it's going to be more and more important to have a cross knowledge across many disciplines, breadth of knowledge, and be able to position your deep knowledge, your passion, at the intersection of that passion, technology, and understanding how it relates across many disciplines, and in many cases, if we're in the corporate and enterprise world, the cultures around the world. So we've got kind of creativity, critical thinking is 1, collaboration across networks is 2, agility and adaptability is 3. You're going to have many careers in your life. I'm a little unusual because I'm 63 and I've already had 4 or 5. But increasingly, and certainly you all that I'm speaking to are going to have multiple careers. You're going to have to be agile and adaptable. 4th, initiative and entrepreneurship is critical. When I speak, I talk to so many incredibly bright, creative young people at some of our leading academic institutions, and they have fabulous ideas. Now, they're not really being taught much about how to be entrepreneurial, and I'll put in a little pitch here. I give a short course, kind of 4 one-hour-plus sessions on how to start a startup. I use getpebble.com as an example. The premier example of crowdfunding on Kickstarter. They started out seeking $100,000. They got it in 2 hours. They went on to obtain $10 million in financing from over 68,000 backers for this phenomenal Get Pebble watch that's come out at CES this past January. They're now shipping about 15,000 a week. So you've got to really know about entrepreneurship. You got to know how to start a startup. You got to have some feel for, how to assemble a team, getting that elevator pitch down, how to, navigate venture capital world and tranches and so forth. Next, effective oral and written communications. And this is so key because increasingly now we are finding that people coming out of colleges, good colleges, are not particularly good communicators. And when I say that, I don't mean just writing, because more and more our world is a visual world. We're appearing on Vimeo, YouTube, much as I am here virtually at Yale today, and I'll be in person on the 21st of February. But critical to have not just oral skills, written skills, but actually presentation skills. So when you're in that meeting, you can lead by influence in your future company. You can get your great idea across and build support for it in a collaborative way and often cross-cultural way. The sixth item is the ability to access and analyze information. And here's where math is so important, and it concerns me. And I think people like Bing and others on the President's Council, I know it concerns President Levin, that Yale has got really only about 20% of its majors are STEM majors, science, technology, engineering, and math. And, it is so critical to be able to understand, in particular, algorithms that are going to be driving so much of our access to the information in the cloud. And finally, seventh is curiosity and imagination. It's so important to create an environment for yourself advertently where you can remain curious, you can use your imagination, and that often is the underlying bedrock of being creative and innovative. And on that point, I want to chat a little bit about, I was at Yale in the 68 to 72, the so-called radical years. And when I walk around Yale now, one of the big differences I see, and it's just a function of life. But when we were here, and I was talking with Bing and my classmates at our reunion back in June, our 40th reunion, we felt free to take risks. I mean, we could take courses outside our major. We shut down the campus after Cambodia was invaded. We had a passion for politics and civil rights. And, we lived in a time when, we grew up when Kennedy was assassinated, and then tragically Martin Luther King, and then Bobby Kennedy. All incredibly formative experiences for us. But most importantly, we had downtime at Yale. We weren't scheduled to the hilt. We had a lot of fun. Some people joke about triple majoring in, politics, rock and roll, sex, and some in other substances. There was a fourth major that we don't talk about. But the bottom line is that when I walk around Yale now, and it's not just Yale, it's everywhere, but the intensity I see, the focus is great, the energy is phenomenal, but there's kind of a overriding or latent anxiety around a lot of it that concerns me, because it's hard to be creative and innovative when you're really anxious about your future and about your courses, and you don't really have time to kick back and relax and do nothing, frankly, and stimulate those moments where suddenly something incredibly creative, pops up for you. So those are the 7 survival skill sets that I think it's important for you to focus on and advertently try to gain as you go through both secondary school and college. Now, educators and people who are starting to really think about this, like Tony Wagner and others, have focused on kind of 5 areas of concern with current academia, both by way of curriculum and pedagogy. And these 5 areas I'm going to quickly summarize here. One is kind of our current education is focused on the individual, these kind of deep silos of thinking, deep learning, information, and that's important. But the future is going to be for collaboration, crowdfunding, crowd knowledge, crowdsourcing across many cultures around the world. That's first. So secondly, we've got current things are focused on, the individual, and it's going to be collaborative, it's going to be important. I'm going to mix this up a little. Let's step back. First, it's kind of there's the current focus on the individual, whereas collaboration is going to be really important. Second, we've got a focus on deep silos of expertise, whereas we're going to need a great kind of, breadth of knowledge in the future, cross-discipline thinking. Third is, currently so many people are risk adverse. They're afraid to take a course, get a bad grade. They won't get into medical school or get into MBA school, whatever it is they want to do. And you know what? You have to take risks. And rather than thinking of failure, I think we all ought to think about it as iteration X.0. In other words, going from 2.0 to 3 or 4.0. I don't think any leading executive minds a good faith, honest failure. We learn most from that. We try not to repeat it, but take risks. That's going to be critical for the future. Next, the current and fourth, the kind of current focus of education is on consuming knowledge. Whereas, as we've talked about, knowledge is a commodity, and the future is going to be about what you can do with it, asking the right questions. And finally, the current environment seems to focus very much on extrinsic motivation, good grades, getting the best graduate school. Some parents use money or other carrots as factors for their kids going through, middle and secondary school. But the future is all going to be about intrinsic motivation, finding your passion, positioning it, as Steve Jobs used to say, at the intersection of what you love and technology. So to conclude, I want to talk real quickly about some schools that are really getting it right, some of us think. In the high school or secondary school area, there's High Tech High out in San Diego that really has focused a lot on the kind of skill sets that Tony Wagner and others, and I'm talking about today. St. Anne's in Brooklyn, I want to call out, which has no grades and has stellar college acceptances. Students